Hello, and welcome to WP Product Talk, the place where every week we interview an experienced WordPress product owner on strategies, tips, experiences, failures, and successes in running successful and thriving WordPress product businesses. I'm Amber Hines, CEO of Equalize Digital and maker of the Accessibility Checker plugin for WordPress.
And I'm Katie Keith, CEO and co-founder of Barn2 Plugins.
And I am so excited to introduce today's topic, which is achieving business goals through enhanced customer experience in WordPress.
This is a great topic because no business can succeed without keeping its customers happy, but it's not always obvious how to do that.
And of course, today we have a special guest here to speak with us. And our special guest is Leslie Sim. Let me bring her in. Leslie, welcome.
So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Would you like to introduce yourself for everyone watching?
Yeah, I am right now I'm fiddling with my Zoom or my focus, but yeah, I'm the co-founder of Newsletter Glue, an email newsletter plugin for WordPress. We connect to email service providers like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, and a whole bunch more, and that you build and send your newsletters from inside your WordPress admin.
Cool.
Great.
And before we start the discussion, if you want to ask any questions about how to keep customers happy and improve the customer journey for your WordPress products, then feel free to ask your questions in the YouTube comments and we'll answer them live. And that is if you're watching live, of course. So let's start by talking, as we always do, about why is this an important topic for WordPress product owners. So I'll start, and I love this topic because when you get it right, everyone wins. So that's always a fun thing to work on. The customer wins because your product's meeting their needs, they've got what they want, and they're enjoying using it, which is super important. Your business wins because your customers are happy and therefore they're more likely to buy your product, not get a refund, renew it in future, tell their friend, maybe buy your other products or upgrade in the future, depending on your business model. So by having a good customer journey, everything just works smoothly, which is what everybody wants. But as WordPress product owners, there's loads we can do to improve customer experience, and it's actually pretty complex. There's so many touch points at every single possible point of the journey that we need to get right. So it's definitely worth talking about all of those different things and how we can get every single stage right if possible. So Leslie, why do you think it's such an important topic?
I feel like Katie, you covered it so well already. Like there's so many different touch points in a customer's journey, and kind of playing with what you can and can't do and how much and how little you help customers makes such a big difference to whether they, actually come on board or they refund within the first 30 days, or whether they stay for years and years or they churn out really quickly, and so forth. So yeah. Basically just agree with you.
I think, it's interesting. I just came back from Cabo Press, which is a business conference in Mexico. Quite nice.
It looks amazing.
Yes, you get to have sessions in the pool, but we're not going to talk about that. Although, I don't know, as a customer experience of a conference attendee, I will say it had a very great experience, which makes me definitely want to go back, right? But one of the takeaways, and I had so many, but one of the ones that we've been talking a lot about, like in our own product business, that I had the opportunity to hear Brennan Dunn. He was talking a lot about segmentation and like personalized marketing and communications that are not just broad general. And of course, we're recording this on October 11th. I just left a meeting about Black Friday with my team. And that was something that I was like thinking about, how can we improve and make things feel more personal for people, and how that will really, I think, we haven't done it yet, but I think will like help people to want to engage more and maybe increase our sales and help us to achieve our goals. And I think like this customer experience topic is important because there's so many layers to it, right? Like you were talking about, Katie, like the checkout process all the way through, right? Like it's a very holistic thing, and you can sort of start like broadly thinking about it and just think, okay, I'm done. Like I've thought about, what's my onboarding wizard, and now I've onboarded them and it's all done. But I feel like there's a lot that product owners, you can just continually layering on to the customer experience, so it's always worth like revisiting.
I think one thing that we should probably talk about also is like when it comes to customer experience, like you said, it's like there's like unlimited amount of things that you can really do, but there has to be some sort of recognition of like matching the customer experience to the price point and the expectation and the target market, because like that's something that we grappled with a lot, and I can talk about later. But what I wanted to say is like, so for example, if you're in a lower price point and like your game is high volume, low price, then sure, you can fly out to somebody's house and fix their plugin, but really, should you, right? Like so
Yeah.
so there's like there's that kind of like meeting and matching expectations, and then like maybe just slightly exceeding them is kind of what you want to do, rather than just kind of like, oh, we have to make the most perfect customer experience. And I think that matters because like sometimes plugin owners might get too bogged down in like, oh, I need to spend 100 hours optimizing our checkout, but it's like not really. And likewise with the onboarding, likewise with support, like actually, you just need to exceed expectations. You don't have to like go so far beyond them as to waste your own time and eat into your own profit margins.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that might be a good transition into, we always like to do story time and share our personal experience. So do you want to dive in a little bit more? Because you said, Leslie, you were trying to figure out like, how do you match the customer experience to your price point? And I'd be curious to hear more about your personal journey on that.
Yeah. So at the start of this year, we repositioned to work with medium to large publishers, and we increased our prices significantly. And a large reason for doing that was because I wanted to provide like a great customer experience for a certain type of customer. And I found that at our price point, we were just unable to do that because it basically just meant we were making a loss every single time customers came and asked for support. And, so like, for example, we found that we worked best with, like I said, medium to large publishers. And our original price point started at $99 a year for a single license. And you have these fairly large publishers with tens of thousands of subscribers paying $99 a year to manage all of their newsletters inside of WordPress. And they would have really specific and advanced technical questions, or like asking us, can you add a filter to do this like very specific thing so that their email can display in a certain way. And we've created our own custom block for email, and we want to make sure it works. And it's like, I'm so happy to help you do all of those things, but it doesn't make sense for us to do that at $99 a year. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like I really liked talking to these people. It was awesome that they were using our product. And that was kind of ultimately why, for me, it felt like in order to keep servicing them and giving them the experience that I wanted to give them, we had to increase our prices. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really, it's a perennial topic for WordPress product owners, right? Like, what should you charge? But I mean, we've sort of been in that same boat, and we've talked a lot about, like one thing is we don't offer an unlimited site license. It's always you pay per site. But I think it's the same thing when you have customers that need that high touch. You have to figure out how to deliver what you want to deliver to them and still make your business profitable so it can stick around to continue delivering the great product that it has to people. So I have totally been there, and I know what you're saying. On the flip side, something that I was always shocked by and impressed, and I don't know if they still do it, maybe you both know, but I remember the first time that I bought Give for a client site, which would have been like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something. It was a long time ago. It was pretty new. And then like a couple weeks later, I got a phone call from them, and they just like wanted to check in and see how using the plugin was. And that was the first time that had ever happened with a WordPress product. And I don't know of any other products that do it. It's something that we've talked a lot about, like, can we add that to our customer experience? But it's sort of an interesting thing, because that's not it's not an enterprise price, right? It follows more traditional, though profitable WordPress plugin prices, and yet they still were dedicating a team member to call and provide that more, what felt like a more hands-on, personalized customer experience. So
yeah, I think Give are really leading the way in that. And there's implications as well, like even having a telephone number field on the checkout, which obviously they need in order to call them. And that's really interesting. I've been aware very recently of kind of a gap in the experience for our customers, which is that customers very regularly ask to have some sort of a call with us. This is for either pre-sales or post-sales support. They just want to talk through either a problem or their exact use case and get advice. And we don't do that. We have live chat on our website when someone's available, and we have email support like most plugin companies. But if you look at the SaaS industry, they pretty much exclusively do live chat now. And some do calls, the more expensive ones. So I've been trying to think about what is appropriate at our price point. Should we be agreeing to calls? Because I know that we are doing regular refunds when we probably could have resolved it with a call, but the customer just can't be bothered to explain on email. They may not be great with typing or English or whatever, and we are not accommodating their needs. And they want their journey to include calls, and very few, I think, WordPress companies are currently doing that. And it's interesting that Give are being proactive in doing that rather than just reactive.
Yeah, I think I'd be really curious to know how many customers Give does that for. Like, is it every single customer? Because that would be crazy. Or is it just, handpicked, and Amber, you just happen to be one of the lucky ones?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And like,
Okay, where's Matt when
I
you need him?
So I could add, we at our, not at our single site, but our 5 site and above plans, we have 2 things. One is a personalized onboarding call. So after they purchase, they get an email that looks like it's from me. That is like, here's a link to book a 30-minute call with Amber. And most people do that. And we decided to add that in. I mean, we decided, okay, well, we can't be profitable with this at the single site license, but so we're like, this might motivate some people to go up to a 5 site license. It's also been really helpful for us. Like, we're talking about, like, how can we enhance the customer experience in a way that it achieves our goals? Well, one, we're really a small team. Our product is relatively new. It hasn't been tested on like all the right, like, I don't know, when Jetpack releases an update, they've probably tested it on at least 50 different themes, and right. So the interesting thing about these calls is I feel like it can help us a little bit with churn, because we haven't built out an onboarding wizard yet, and it's not always totally clear what people are supposed to do with our plugin, or they might know like how to use the plugin, but they're seeing errors and they don't understand them. Or maybe even they are a false positive or something, because it's something that came up in an environment that we just haven't been able to test on. And so it does double duty. I think it helps with getting people up and running, but also it gives me a look behind the scenes at people's websites and what our plugin is doing in those environments. And I sometimes leave those and I like open GitHub issues. So it's like sneaky customer surveying, because I can also talk to them, like what brought you here, what motivated you to buy it, like all of that kind of stuff, without them feeling like they're participating in a customer survey. Like they think they're getting something from me, right? Because we figured out how to balance that. And that has been really useful. And, if we get to a certain scale point, we might have to have other team members doing them and not just me. But it's been really helpful. And then the other thing that we do along that same line is every other Wednesday, those same license plans, I have an open office hours that anyone can join. And it's a Zoom. And basically in their plugin dashboard, I think there's like an add-on for EDD that we sell with, where you can use it to restrict messaging to people that hold certain product licenses or have a certain subscription. So just on their main dashboard screen, we have something that restricts if they only have those plugins. And then it basically has a message and a link over to Zoom where they could go schedule. We require people to register because I want to know in advance, like who's coming. And there's just a thing that's like, do you have any questions? Sometimes people are just like, nope, just coming to hang out. And other times people will give me in advance what their questions are. But both of those, I feel like, have really enhanced the customer experience and have helped us to better understand how people are using our product and to, see issues.
Yeah, I love all of that because I like the idea of doing it for certain price points because one, it makes it profitable for you, but two, it might encourage people to upgrade. You could, I don't know if you do, but you could potentially advertise that as a perk of the higher licenses. Like we have faster guaranteed response times for more expensive licenses. So it's a way of enhancing that, I suppose. So there's lots of good things about that. But also the fact that you have this friendly looking but automated email means you don't have to collect their phone number on the checkout necessarily. It's maybe a little bit less resource heavy than what Give do because you only have to talk if they want to talk.
We do actually collect the phone number too, because our goal is to do phone calls. It's optional though. We didn't make it a required field. So
Katie, do you do office hours? I feel like, what Amber was saying about office hours is kind of a good middle ground for your plugins.
Because they're not
what I struggle with
cost.
We have so many different plugins. If office hours is a shared thing where anybody who's on the call can listen in, we're going to be talking about plugins that they're not interested in. So we might have one person who's really wants detailed questions about building a document library, and all the WooCommerce people are bored then. So on the one hand, it might educate them about other plugins, which they then end up buying. On the other, we sell such a diverse range. I don't know if a shared call would be useful.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about what does the future of office hours look like, even just as we scale our user base. Like right now, it's pretty easy. I think the most I've ever had come to office hours was 8, but frequently it's like 3 or 4 people. So we can divide an hour very easily among 3 or 4 people. So then we've talked about what happens if suddenly the demand is like 50 people are coming, and then it's almost has to be a little bit more like a webinar. You have to have submitted your question in advance. We're only going to pick some of them, which is not as useful, right? So then it's talking about, do we offer them more frequently? And then we have to have more staffing on that. Or do we divide them by industry and be like, this is the government office hours, this is the education office. I don't know. I can imagine that'd be challenging for you too when you have so many different plugins. Like, would you do a lot? But even with try just doing one and see what happens.
Yeah, we could. Let's say you had 4 people in an hour. If one person has to wait 45 minutes for their turn, are they bored waiting? Is the other customers' questions like really specific, or can everybody learn?
No, generally everybody can learn. Like, I don't think anybody has ever, because that's what I said. Like, some people show up with no questions and they just want to listen. Because I'll also do, they're not always just like plugin usage questions. A lot of times we've been using that because people have questions about how do they fix an accessibility problem that the plugin has identified on their website. And our support does not include that. But at office hours, I'm willing to do that. But like our support that you pay for is how to use the plugin, not us teaching you how to code accessibility fixes, right?
Why are you willing to do that in office hours?
Because
Customer
it's fun
experience,
and
Katie.
yeah, customer experience. If we did it in our support thread, I think it would overrun our support, and also our main support person is not like an accessibility expert.
Yeah,
right. So that would also probably increase our support costs if we had to have a really experienced dev answering questions about like, how do I fix these links in my nav menu that are actually supposed to be buttons? Like the amount of time it might take to provide code for that.
Yeah,
So
I kind of meant the
like,
other way around, really,
yeah.
that if that's normally not included in the support, why do they get more in office hours? But yeah, it is a more public way of conversational based way, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's just like an added value. Typically who comes to office hours, every once in a while we'll have like a higher ed institution, but typically it's agencies. And so we're trying to like provide value that makes them want to continue using the plugin and feel supported from us. So yeah.
Interesting.
I think like this is another really good kind of pillar of customer experience. That the fact that customers are not using the accessibility checker just to check the accessibility. They're actually using it because they care about accessibility and they want to make their entire website better. And like this comes back to like I guess like jobs to be done kind of a thing. I'm not sure if you've both heard of that framework before, but it's
Yeah,
like
I mean
really
that's
popular.
like a content writing. But why don't you, for our audience, all of our viewers, maybe you could summarize it.
Pressure. Jobs to be done is kind of like a really popular product management framework that helps you think about what job a customer is trying to achieve rather than what feature you're trying to build for them. So the really famous, I forgot. So the founder was the person who came up with the idea was this guy called Clay Christensen, who has now unfortunately passed away. But the really popular example that he would talk about is milkshakes in McDonald's. And McDonald's hired him and his company to figure out how to sell more milkshakes. And instead of thinking about going straight into the features like, oh, how do we make a more delicious milkshake? How do we add more flavors? How do we change the packaging? They were like, okay, let's look at the customer's job to be done. And it turned out that the customer's job to be done wasn't milkshakes for dessert with their burgers. It was it turned out that they were selling a lot of milkshakes in the morning, and it was because drivers, like truck drivers or people driving long distances, were looking for something that they could eat in the morning that was really easy and they could eat while driving these really long distances, 2 hours, 4 hours. And eating a milkshake was easier than like trying to hold a burger or like pancakes in the morning. And it was just as filling. And so when they realized that was the job of the milkshake, they were able to make the milkshake like more nutritious or more breakfasty. And I think that like enabled them to sell more milkshakes. And so in our case, or in Amber's case, let's say, for example, the accessibility checker's job to be done isn't just to like show up these, like check marks or like
Show
X's
problems,
and be like, like that's not the job to be done, right? Like the job of the agency is to build an accessible website for their customers. And so if you think about it kind of holistically, then office hours is part of the product because it's helping agencies with their job of building better, more accessible websites. Likewise for me, right? Like with Newsletter Glue, my customers aren't coming to me because they want email ready blocks that they can use in the block editor. They're coming to me because they want to build faster newsletters, or they want to streamline their newsletter operations, or they want to grow grow their subscriber count. So, I consider my podcast, the Sticky Podcast, where I interview newsletter publishers, like part of my product, because that helps them with their job to be done, in terms of figuring out like, how do I get more subscription revenue? How do I reduce churn and stuff like that? And I think like that's kind of a really important way to think about it, because I think customers think about it that way as well. Like they consider everything that you provide part of the value that they're getting from you when they become a customer.
Now that was a good explanation of the framework. You're the right person to define it.
So this is interesting. We were talking about pricing a little bit, and Peter Ingersoll said a favorite pricing plan includes annual renewals at a discount. Most experienced users need less support, and the discount makes it hard to cancel. I wonder why it isn't used anymore. I'm curious if either of you have thoughts, because we were talking about like pricing as part of customer experience and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have done this in the past. So we need to distinguish between manual and subscription renewals. So with the manual ones, it is quite well documented that it's good to have some sort of discount, at least at some stage of the process. Like at Barn 2, we offer a discount, I think, if they don't renew by the renewal date. So they've cancelled their subscription, they've let it expire, they've ignored several reminders like your subscription will expire in 2 weeks and all of that, your license key rather. And so at some point we do start offering a discount. But the other side of that is the subscription renewals that will happen automatically. And I think quite a few plugin companies have done the maths, including ourselves, which is that the percentage of additional renewals you get from having a discount does not make up from the lost revenue of giving everybody a discount. So let's say you give 20% discount on all your automatic renewals. If you didn't do that, you wouldn't get 20% more renewals, if that makes sense. Therefore, it's less profitable. So a lot of people these days tend to be having renewals for people that are in danger of being lost anyway. I know that's not necessarily the most customer focused way to describe that. That's the kind of the business perspective on it. But that's how a lot of people are doing it.
Yeah, I think it probably comes down to, like you said, it's a business decision, and I don't know if it makes as much sense to discount. But I think, too, sure, more experienced users need less support. That is probably true, but your costs as a product developer don't necessarily go down over time for those people, even if they're not asking for support. In theory, you're supporting your product by adding new features or, improving things when like PHP 8 gets deprecated, right? Like, and you have to go back and make updates to your code and continuing to do that stuff. So I think that's probably why more people move to the automated subscriptions, and it's just the same price. Or maybe you discount the first year to try and get people in, and then in hopes that they'll renew at full price and not cancel. So
I think that discounted renewal thing is an artifact of the time before subscriptions were a thing to begin with. So what I mean by that is, there was a time not that long ago where plugins were pay once, use forever. And then if, maybe 2 years later, the plugin developer might update the plugin and then you pay for it again if you want it. If not, you could just use that same plugin forever. And then as subscriptions became a thing, plugin owners or developers were suddenly faced with, how do I get people to pay for subscriptions when they were previously just paying for a single lifetime license or paying once and using it forever? And then they were like, oh, we could do discounts. And so, that's kind of that's kind of how that started. And like, that's how that step went. And then as people got used to the idea of subscriptions, having to do the discount wasn't like it wasn't really necessary to do the discounts anymore because people were familiar with the idea and comfortable with the idea of paying annually for subscriptions. And I think like it's really great that we're trending away from that because, you know, in the Stone Ages when it was all just pay once and use forever, you know, all the plugin owners weren't able to make that much money. And, you know, that also as a result means you don't get as good plugins. People aren't constantly improving on it, not giving good support, and, you know, lots of bad stuff snowballs on from there.
And that was not good customer experience. Customers thought it was good that they'd pay once, like $29 for a plugin on Code Canyon for lifetime updates. But it wasn't in their interest because so many of them went out of business and were discontinued because, as Amber was just saying, there are ongoing development costs to maintain a plugin and keep it going for the future. So it wasn't sustainable, and it is actually in the customer's interest for the business to be profitable and sustainable because it's so frustrating. We've all had it many times. A plugin we're using stops existing. And you have that dilemma. Do we replace it with something else? Do we keep using it? What if there's security problems? Do we fork it if we're in the industry and can do that? It's not a good situation.
And I think also plugins have just gotten, I think plugins have just gotten more advanced and complex over time. Like, you know, none of us have a memberships plugin or like a learning management system, unless Katie, you do. I'm not sure. You have so many.
You're referring to platform plugins, really.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. None of us have a platform plugin.
Yeah, and you know, if you're doing that, then if my entire membership business was running on a platform plugin, I'm not going to want to just like pay $49 once and use it for the next 10 years. Like I want to pay, you know, lots of money so that they're making it really good and they're going to be there when I need support and all of the things.
Yeah. I'm curious. So we talked about that. One of our main goals for this episode was talking about achieving business goals with enhanced customer experience. But I think what might be interesting for some people is even stepping back. And I'd be curious what either of you do when you're planning to even identify what those business goals are that are connected to customer experience. Because we all have business goals that are sort of irrelevant to customer experience to some degree, but like how would somebody who's trying to figure that out, like what are the goals I should have and which ones are relevant, or does my customer experience really impact? Do either of you have tips or thoughts on that?
I think Amber, what you mentioned earlier about onboarding and retention and just that early sales call thing is kind of how I think I followed a very, very similar path. And so what I found was that there are some customers who obviously buy my plugin, use it, never contact me, and they are perfectly happy, and that's great. But then it always kind of makes me really sad when someone buys the plugin, couldn't get it to work, and for like completely easy to fix reasons. And you know, if only I could have gotten them on a phone call, you know, it would have been great. Or someone is using us, but they're not using us in a great way. So you know, they're having like an okay experience, but just because they weren't aware of certain features, they had like a 5 out of 10 or like 6 out of 10 experience when they actually should have been having an 8 out of 10 experience because we have the features to make it an 8 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 experience for them. And so like for me, I love kind of getting on calls or doing things to enhance that customer experience, to give them that 8 out of 10 experience or 10 out of 10 experience. And I do get on sales calls often where like the customer is like, oh, actually, we already played your demo. We're like pretty sure we want to buy this. We just wanted to get on a call to make sure that we weren't missing out on features, or we wanted to share our workflow with you so that you can tell us what are the best practices. And I love those calls because I'm like, yes, that's like help. Like I want to help you I'm glad that you're helping me help you make you awesome, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, onboarding and retention is the summary of all the stuff that I just said.
Absolutely, yeah, because the business goal is to retain the customer. Well, get them in the first place, which means the customer journey on your website needs to be good, or you never get the customer. And once they've made that purchase, then the goal is to retain them, initially by not having them have a refund, and then subsequently to continue renewing in the future. So for me, it's about thinking about every single stage of that journey for the customer. So when they first buy your website, then how are they onboarded? For example, we use Easy Digital Downloads with their per product emails add-on, which allows us to send a personalized email depending on what plugin they've bought. And that contains very brief instructions on how to get started with that plugin. So they get the receipt email with their license key and whatever, and they also get instructions so they can get started straight away. We've done setup wizards for each plugin so that when you install it, on the first activation, a setup wizard opens, which was inspired by the WooCommerce setup wizard, so that it guides them through all the key settings, and then it signposts them to what to do next. So, for example, if they want to create product filters in WooCommerce, it will send them to the create a filter page after the wizard. So they choose their settings, activate the license key, and then they are guided to the right place. So hopefully that will help them with the onboarding so that they're less likely to get a refund. And we also have an email sequence. So I think after 3 days, we email just to check in with them and say, how are you getting on? I'd love to enhance that to do what Amber does about offering them a call or office hour, sort of a joint call or whatever, so that they've got a more personal way of getting support. But even so, they can reply to that email. We wouldn't do a no reply address. That's terrible for customer experience. Don't do no reply emails, anybody. So they can just reply or use our support center or whatever. And then when we have emails every few months with some tips on how to get the most out of the plugin, which ramps up a bit before renewal time as well. At which point we offer them it's like a free or audit or health check of how they're using the plugin. So they can just reply to the email and we'll take a look at their site and say, are you using it to its full potential? Are there any new features you're not making the most of? And that's like just a few weeks before renewal to kind of remind them, we're still here, we can still help you, support is still available, there is ongoing value. So all of those things hopefully work together to achieve the business goals by making the customer happy. And we've got another comment, which is from one of my team members, actually, who's talking about what Leslie mentioned. Does it follow that as a customer, you get what you pay for? So you pay a one-time low fee for a plugin and then don't expect much for it. So what do you think, Leslie?
The short answer is yes. I mean, I definitely have plugins that I pay $49 a year for, and I don't expect anything. I try not to renew renew every other year. Like it's a tiny little plugin that I could probably just code myself, but it's easier to just pay $49 every other year to get like alternate year updates for, and like it's enough.
What I would say though, to like push back on that a tiny bit, is we're all sitting here from the seat of being product owners. So we have a different perspective, I think, on what it takes to build a product and how that relates to pricing than maybe the average WordPress user. And I don't know that the average WordPress user always thinks low price, I expect not very much from this plugin. High price, it's totally worth it and it's going to do a lot for me, right? Like I think sometimes they're price shopping completely. Not always. Sometimes it's about ease of use, right? But I think there are definitely people who don't pay a lot for plugins and yet still expect probably even more than they really should expect for that plugin. I mean, there are people that expect a lot out of free plugins on WordPress.org and get mad when it doesn't do things, and they go right back reviews. And I'm just like, why? It's free. Someone's donating this to you. So, yeah.
Websites like Code Canyon have a lot to answer for, don't they, for selling everything so cheaply. You can get a really complex platform type plugin for very, very little money on those sites. And the reason it's cheap is because it's not sustainable as a business model. But people expect other companies to follow suit, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we need to transition over to our best advice, because we try to hang out about 45 minutes or so. Leslie, do you want to start? What's your best advice for new product owners or existing product owners who want to try and enhance their customer experience?
Yeah, I think I want to go back to that question and like what I said earlier as well, at the start about kind of, the customer experience has to be, the boundaries of the customer experience has to be the business goals and like what's realistic for the business, because you don't want to, fly over to someone's house to fix a thing when they're paying $49 a year. And like that's why this is a business podcast and not a podcast for like customers to teach them how to abuse business owners. And yeah, so I think like at the end of the day, as a business owner, you have to be really clear about what makes business sense for you and think about customer experience from the goal of like, you have to start from what business goal am I achieving with my customer experience, right? Because there are like lots of cases where your goal is actually to get a million downloads and charge really low prices and have poor customer experience, because that is what makes sense for your business goal and the shape of your business. And so you have to just be really clear about that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Katie?
I would say to think about your customer's journey from start to finish, because that is their experience visiting your website, buying the plugin, and everything that comes after it. So think about what that's like for them, and that will give you so many ideas. If possible, and we haven't touched on this, do some user testing, whether it's just a friend or a formal user testing service to replicate, to experience that journey and tell you what it's like, rather than, because you've got your own kind of blinkers from being the product owner. It's hard to have a fresh, objective view of your own product and the experience of your customers. You know what the settings page is there, you put it there, and other people it might not be so obvious, for example. So get feedback and listen to it.
Yeah, I think both that is great advice. I am very much a planner and I have to visualize things. So I think my advice is a little bit of a combination of both of yours, but literally put it down on paper. So we, as my partners and I, sit down at least twice a year and write SMART goals or modify our SMART goals for the year in the middle of the year based upon what we're seeing. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound goals. And then we also have done the user journey mapping, and not just go through it, but we have literal flows that we've made in like a diagram maker. We use SlickPlan. That's sort of like, this is a person, this is how they enter, this is what the whole experience is. And I think spending time to create that kind of stuff on paper is really helpful, instead of just broadly thinking about it. And it's going to probably have better results when it comes to achieving the goals. I think the biggest step that I'm going to go towards is segmenting better, as I mentioned at the beginning. And I think we could all probably do more to segment our messaging and what our offering is for different people in our audience.
Definitely, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Leslie. You've been an amazing guest, and it's been a really interesting conversation where we've covered lots of different really useful things that I hope people found helpful. So thank you very much. And special thanks to Postdaters for being our green room for WP Product Talk. If you're enjoying these shows, do us a favour and hit like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and add us into your newsletters.
And most of all, we hope we will see you back here next week. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.